So, Frankie, I just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy
Merry
New
Christmas to
Year,
you. Yes, you as well.
and it's been a year. It's been a year.
It's we Nina I think this was the second year in a row, she imposed a slightly awkward family tradition thing on us this year. It
Okay.
was called it's the Polish opłatek. And because she and her family are very Polish, and it's like it's kind of like a taking communion sort of thing where you take a bit of cracker and but like there's like a circle that you have to do it in where you take a piece and then you say something to the person that you're taking a piece from, whether or not you're all that close with that person. That's the most awkward part.
Oh.
And and it was funny because the people that addressed me, it's like, I wish you health and happiness and prosperity in the new year. It's like that's the sort of thing you're supposed to do. And the people who had to talk to me were like, I know you had a really good year this year.
I've been told.
So like
I've gotten the newsletter.
The 2020 was a horrible year. Dumpster fire ornaments memes
Oh yeah.
they don't ring super true with me, and not to say that I'm sure everybody had a good year or something, but between the weight loss and the work from home, it's such a double win for my life that I cannot in good conscience join you all in cursing this wretched year.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of a wash because there was good things about working from home, but I also lost my job,
Yeah.
so that's kind of a bummer. But there's always another year. I feel like I was very productive regardless. So
I was. This is just a totally offhanded thought, but like you've been reached out to by some of the products you reviewed, like the Umai people and some of the grill people and stuff. Like, do any of these folks need like a media content person that they already know and love, and like they want to maybe do a marketing campaign with that's like comedic and I don't like.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about stuff like that for sure, and because I'm still, even though I'm losing my job, I'm still wrapping it up. So it's kind of annoying. Is that I'm still focused on this old job that I'm losing. So I haven't had a lot of thought to put into it. But since I'm going to get actually a pretty good severance, I'll have like 4 months to figure my life out.
Yeah, that's
Because
great.
I'm getting like 4 months salary, so and bonuses too. So that's actually a pretty good idea, and there might be some YouTube specific things that I incorporate into my life from this point on, but we'll see.
Well, that's actually a good segue into the first thing I wanted to chat about, which was so first of all, I think we've decided that we're going to give this particular episode to the patrons first, as we always do. But we're going to also let this one go out to the world because we're recapping the year, and we think that maybe for people who don't know if the Patreon podcast is for them, and it's going to continue to be a big part of the channel next year. This would be maybe a good opportunity for them to hear a good, long, content rich episode. So I wanted to talk specifics of finances in service of a particular purchase that we just made. So going on 6 years of Red Cow, it's never been lucrative. There's no indication that it ever will be. And but we didn't have a Patreon basically, or like in the early years, or we were spending a lot on the studio. And this was the first year that we decided to like not have a big expense like the studio and still bring in money through the same revenue sources of Patreon, TeePublic, which I found out the other day. We've brought in $500 lifetime, which is like I think across 3 years from TeePublic. Which doesn't sound like very much money, but at the same time, you're also like, yeah, but I don't have to manage any of the shipping or any of the I don't have to do anything, and we got like $500 out of it. So like,
yeah, and it's free advertising of your body wearing our stuff.
And people seem to enjoy. I did a little breakdown to see like what do we sell on this thing, because they actually do have all that insight, and It's like
if I were to guess before you told me, I would have guessed Box Mac shirt and Red Cow logo.
Yeah, the Box Mac logo is used not just on shirts, obviously, but like many different styles of shirts and a lot of like stickers and stuff people seem to buy. And then the Red Cow logo is and What's in John's Cart I think are up next, and then in fourth was Boring Chuck from Ohio. That design actually sold a lot. And then
deep cut.
After that, it's all diminishing returns. Like there's people,
3, 4.
Yeah, ones and twos, basically. Most me, probably. I bought like one of all of them. But anyhow, so we bring in like $330 a month from Patreon now, which is the highest it's ever been. Perhaps partly in thanks to this podcast, because now there really is like an exclusive show that you can get by donating. And a lot of people don't know, like you'll get the show no matter what tier. Like, so if you do the $2 tier, you get the show. Like the show is really easy to get, basically. So that's cool. And then Google AdSense, I think for the last few years, we've averaged, some months it's 150, some months it's 200 or so. Although the month just recently where you had a lot of SEO from like the deep fryer, it came like that. I think that accounted for an extra like $400 or something. Which I think I said in the last show, it demonstrates that like you don't even have to have a huge following to make okay money on Google AdSense.
Yeah, you just have to have the right content that strikes at the right time,
I mean, that video I think topped out at 16,000 views, which compared to what most people get on you or what most popular channels get on YouTube is not even that much, and yet it's money. It's real money. So if you ever wondered, like, what do YouTubers make? Like, I think they make a lot. we don't.
But we it's modest for our hobby channel, basically. But
I think I found that if you look at any given month for what brought in new subscribers, it's some percentage Box Mac. There's always some big EJ video in there though, that I think accounts for a lot of people who are searching for that product or that thing. And so you could almost characterize it as a lot of EJ videos bring new people. And then like the sort of Junt fandom keeps people as well. I mean, you I think retain your own fans as well, but there's another way to put it might be like that you're a good entry point and they kind of like stay for the Junt. There's a lot of that, I think.
Yeah, I hope so, because I film a lot of that Junt stuff.
Yeah, right. It's not like you have nothing to do with it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have. I mean, you even more than me have your hands at least like on every piece of content on the channel. So there's that, and then there's merch, which is like and that's not to say TeePublic isn't merch, but what I mean is like the homemade merch, like Blu-rays or shirts we sell out of our garage from old stock and that kind of thing. I manage all that. So it came out to almost $6,000 this year, and we only spent like. And it was mostly like EJ stuff to review, basically. Sometimes we would spend a little bit of money. We spent $100 here and there on like a dinner after a shoot or something. But I think we only spent like $1,500 total for the year, and so we ended up hanging on to real money for us. And when you consider like we have day jobs, or we had day jobs.
I am pretty confident I'll still have a day job. It's just a stressful transition.
Yeah, it's not. I hate the idea of like finding a new job. That's like that's why I'll probably just hang on to this one forever. And so it was end of year. There were some like camera sales, and EJ said like, "Hey, what about look, I'm not going to be able to benefit from work related equipment. We've got some money in the bank account for once. Is now a good time to buy a new camera." So what did you decide on?
It's this guy right here. This is the Panasonic S5. It's actually a very new camera, actually. And that's probably going to be. I'm going to do a camera review for this. I'm going to do an EJ review. Nice. It's going to be my first camera review in years.
Is that ours? Is that Red Cow's?
This is ours. This is Red Cow's right here.
Nice.
It's Panasonic, so it's a full frame camera. So unlike the GH4, it's a
Ah.
full frame camera, full frame sensor.
I didn't know that.
And one of the benefits that it has is it does 10-bit 422 internally. You know, all these cameras, you have to do it externally through the HDMI cable or something. This does 10-bit 422 internally, 4K. There is an older Panasonic camera that does 6K, but I was like, we're not using 6K. Fuck that.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
But it's really really nice, and but actually, I was gonna pitch to you live. I was thinking of ordering you another camera, which was the Panasonic G9, which is on sale right now. Because you were talking about how you needed stabilization. This has really good in-body stabilization, and
it doesn't have that wavy looking shit.
No, it shouldn't. Because you'd have to turn on like some digital effect. You don't do that. But I think I might have to order you this, because then you can have two cameras, and you can use the GH4 can be the B camera, and then you can have that one as the A camera, like if Matt's over or something.
That'd be great. What do you know what it costs?
We're right now it's on sale for $1,000, and if it's not on sale, it's like $1,400. So.
And you think it'll match the GH4 pretty nicely?
I think it'll look better than the GH4 because their codecs have gotten better, but I think the colors should be relatively similar.
So you could even see me deciding that it's my new primary or something.
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, let's do it.
Because it's why not?
I definitely need a with the increase of like Matt and Nina shooting stuff, they're getting better, and we finally have a config on the camera that works pretty well for auto exposure, autofocus. I think their stuff is looking better than it was like 2 years ago. There was a commentary track or something where I was like, everything's out of focus in this fucking channel. And I think it's a lot better, but yeah, I think the thing I still struggle with is like steady shots. And
well, I think this camera will be better because I think the autofocus is better, and then the colors are better, and the stabilization will be better. So at least, and like if you use like the GH4 for a secondary, you'll still be able to match it well.
And while I'm on the topic, I whenever I'm shooting a box mac and you're not there and I need a second camera, I have to like beg John to go get it from the bedroom, and that annoys me. So I'd rather.
Yeah, so I think what I'll do is after the show, because I think the sale ends at midnight.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
I'll just order you something and send it to your house.
That's great. We do need like an asset tracking system or something.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. You were like, can we have to put asset tags on this? I'm like, do we like print out stickers? What do we do?
Yeah, I don't think it has to be anything fancy. It's just it's worth one for our own memories, what's owned by the company versus what's owned by our set. Like, because there is stuff that's like the GH4 is my personal property.
Yeah,
and you're using your personal property, so it's worth just for our memory because we'll forget. Like,
true.
What's owned by what, yeah. And then two.
Do we have to asset track hams? Is what
I don't think so, but I do for tax reasons. I do document every purchase in like a nice spreadsheet to one, to just do a little bit of analytics on like what's our rate of spend, what's normal for us, what's abnormal for us, but then also this should be the first year where we owe taxes because we will have registered like a $4,000 profit, although now that we're buying cameras out of our asses, hopefully we won't have to report a huge profit or something. We'll report like a $2,000 profit is probably what it'll end up coming out to. And then, because it would be nice to not have to pay a lot of tax on such a small LLC.
Yeah, that's true. That's
one of the most under rewarding expenses of the year is the LLC. In Massachusetts, it's $500 a year. On like on an enterprise that at most brings in $6,000.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. If I ever get sued, I'll be thankful.
Yeah, you don't have the liability. That's the limited liability, right?
Yeah, exactly. You making documentaries about weddings and shit. You never know.
So, guys, this is how the sausage is made. We are talking about taxes and spends, but
I guarantee you somebody will find it interesting. Like, we have a pretty nerdy audience who's probably like, well, well, it's also, I think I said this on a recent stream, but like, we're talking such low dollar amounts that there's zero drama in our lives about the finances of Red Cow Entertainment.
yeah.
So we also like, there's a high level of comfort in talking about it, even very publicly, which I don't think you get. I don't think you could get that from another YouTube channel.
What? There's not a Red Cow Entertainment truth. With all the salacious insider drama that
what
might be
EJ is referring to is we. I'll mention it. Only
do high level.
We many of you might know the channel Cinemassacre. They James Rolfe. He's the angry video game nerd. Been around for 15 years. Makes he's like an independent filmmaker type. And over time, he's like us. He's had children. He's had competing priorities, but unlike us, he's had an incredibly successful channel where he's been able to outsource, at this point, basically the entire operation, and still sort of make it look to his audience like he's the one making it. And that has created a lot of drama in the fan community that then the company that he outsourced to has tried to silence. So like, there's an official Cinemassacre Reddit where they moderate the hell out of comments about like, whatever happened to this person and that sort of stuff. So now there's this kind of underground, I'm sure this exists for other things too, but there's a Reddit that's called The Cinemassacre Truth, and it's all memes about, I think what fascinates us about it is you can't feel, it's like Star Wars. You can't feel as passionately about this stuff without first being a fan. And then it's nothing but like contempt for the people that gave you free content.
Well, it is especially being a YouTube creator that's not successful, but it's interesting to see that dynamic of the fandom.
It's hard not to relate either speculatively or like it's like, oh well, if we were really successful and we ended up having to make some of these business decisions, would we end up critiqued in the same way? And then there's other, like, the guys that they outsource to, I'm just going to say it. The guys that they outsource to are like hefty dudes with big scraggly beards, and no one is getting off their ass about it. Like these angry fans have deemed them the slobs, and which is very cruel, but honestly a little funny.
I laugh almost daily about that name because I think about what they look like in the fact, and because they're like in these videos all of a sudden and Cinemassacre, and they're very not charismatic people,
right?
And you were like, what? Like when they showed up, you're like, oh, who are these people? Maybe there's James' friends that they went to the movies with or something. I didn't know. And then, now that I know the backstory of Screenwave and all that stuff,
it turns out they're just guys that work at this company that were basically dispatched to be like, go talk about movies on the internet. And we've gotten plenty of critiques about our looks, like any YouTuber. But especially because of our weights and stuff like that. And so like, it's, on one hand, I'm very sympathetic to like, oh, come on, leave these guys alone. And on the other hand, you do have to be conscious about the fact that you're like, so are we just going to be a bunch of like, really nerdy looking guys talking about movies on the internet? Because the channel was a little less rote than that 10 minutes ago. And like, are we, I think that when places scale, when places grow, that's when you lose identity, right? That happens in any business, any corporation.
Well, it's like, so Christmas just came and I was making meats for people, and they're like, oh, why don't they serve this in a restaurant? And I was like, well, once you scale it for a restaurant, you lose quality.
Yeah,
period.
You can't cure hams.
You just, once you scale anything, you lose quality. That's just how it is.
I hear that feedback in all aspects of my life of like, why don't you delegate, or why don't you, and it's like, well, that in order to grow, in order to achieve more, that's good advice. Like, farm things out, give things to more people. But when you stop, micromanagement gets a bad rap. Because, when you stop micromanaging things, it may lose what's special about it. I mean, the South Park guys have been writing those shows the whole time, and it has not become The Simpsons. It has not become Family Guy. But The Simpsons and Family Guy probably have made a lot more people a lot more money over time.
Yeah.
Instead, these guys just made all the money. These guys made hundreds of millions.
Well,
anyway,
to not be like the slobs, I did get a haircut.
Nice. Did you be honest? Were you like slightly inspired after the slob talk to be like, I better get a cut?
A little bit. I was a little bit embarrassed. I trimmed my beard and I got a haircut. And there's a non-zero amount of sway that the slobs gave me. It was
You were like, I better like present like an army ranger after reading this subreddit.
Yeah. Well, some people some people were commenting like positively about my long hair and stuff like that, and also I have a young child that he's pulling on everything. I just had to tighten up a little.
I used to when I was bigger, I always thought that like more hair on the head just generally would help sort of like proportionately because then you're not just like all like just round skin. And I think I might have been wrong. I think just more hair just makes you like digs you deeper into that aesthetic. So I'm just glad I've lost 85 pounds. Okay.
No, you look great. You look great.
There's no going back now. Well, good. Well, before we move on to today, what we want to do this evening in this evening's programming is we're going to go through some statistics about what we accomplished this year and some highlights. So we're going to do that thing.
I like that.
But before we do, I think we should probably conclude our thoughts on Disney Plus's The Mandalorian.
Oh, let's do that.
Okay.
It was good. But Mark Hamill was bad.
Yeah.
Or Luke Skywalker.
Shit.
Spoilers. I mean, okay. Yeah. At this point, it's out in the world.
On that note, you know how, especially when Game of Thrones was airing and stuff, like when big television series are, or for that matter, big movies are dropping, there's always a lot of sensitivity around, like there ends up being activism on social media about like, don't spoil for somebody in need this season. And I get all that. But in a world where social media has gotten a lot more sophisticated about auto moderation and trying to fact check, preventively fact check things and do everything that they're doing, do you think it's weird that there hasn't been an auto moderation for spoilers during key windows of time at this point? Like that would be one of the least controversial and easiest things for like Zuckerberg to implement, don't you think?
Yeah, you could be like, I'm really into Star Wars. Please don't spoil things for me. You could turn on a little thing, maybe you could turn on,
even like like the show translation thing that you see sometimes, like just kind of collapse it and just make it so you have to sort of expand it.
Oh, that's true.
Like how hard would that seems like something that they like. All you would need is a couple of key words about what the spoiler in question was. Like Disney could even like get to them and be like, hey, between the dates of this and this, please spoiler warn for these key terms.
Yeah, especially since we've already like breached the topic of free speech in the media. It's like might as well just play around with it more.
And you wouldn't even have to do it algorithmically. I think you could just do it with an actual like small dictionary of terms, because if anybody tried to skirt those terms and like talk about the spoiler with ambiguous language, it's like, well, great, that's what we wanted.
yeah I mean, I think it would. I don't know if like because they have like a lot of ad revenue with click through, I'm sure, or something. So I'm sure. I don't know if like blocking spoilers would hurt them in the end. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I think I talked about it in a previous episode. Like when Revenge or Rise of Skywalker came out, and I was getting like Palpatineized. My sponsored ads were all about like the truth behind Palpatine. It's always we got this covered.com, comicbook.com, and screenrant.com. Those three are like this massive leak indicates that maybe Boba Fett, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a caption that's like, that's going to piss a lot of people off. Or something. There's like a human touch to it that they kind of plant in. And then you click it and, invariably. And there's, I swear, 4 paragraphs of just blabbing about things you already know.
You all know that Boba Fett was in Return of the Jedi. And
there's been a great deal of controversy amongst Star Wars fans, but also Lucasfilm, dating back to 1977 when Star Wars was first released. And then,
like, I don't know, there might be a new Boba Fett show. Anyway.
Yeah, totally.
That's it.
So what I like to do is I like to look at the comments on the post, which are all pissed. But that is probably an actual art. Like if you're paid to write those articles and bait those clicks, not just the art of clickbait, but the art of filibustering for 4 paragraphs.
Yeah.
In a way that makes it very, very difficult for the reader to skim and get their key information quickly.
Yeah, that must be an art. And I don't know if it's even half algorithm based. Like you push a button and it generates like Star Wars facts.
Yeah, that's like I remember I work one time made me do this thing called Strengths Finder. Have you ever heard of this thing?
No.
It's basically what are the skills? Where are you strong? What are your core skills? What are your core competencies? And it's like a Facebook quiz essentially, but they try to act like there's like really strong social science behind it. And they give you like a 5-page narrative when you're done with the test, but it's like an auto-generated narrative. So it's like all of these kind of pre-written paragraphs, like recombined with each other, like as if like a human being wrote this cool thing about me. And so I can like navel gaze about myself for 5 pages and really feel like I got my money's worth. I see through you.
Yeah.
I see through your little company.
It kind of there was a game on the Wii called Silent Hill. Was it Shattered Memories? And it was kind of interesting because it would monitor how you played the game, and then it would basically come up with like a horoscope at the end, like since you looked at these posters throughout the game, or since you like ran away from enemies instead of engaging them, like it generated like a whole profile about you, and it kind of sounded like you because all horoscopes kind of do.
Exactly. The horoscope people figured this out first.
Exactly. Yes.
Well said. Well, so I think we talked about the Boba Fett episode last time, but so that means we haven't talked about, or did we talk about the Bill Burr one already? I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, here, I'll synopsize it.
Yes.
Bill Burr, Boston's own Bill Burr.
Old Billy Burr.
Old Billy. Ladies.
Ladies.
Him like actually sharing screen time with canon Boba Fett is just what times to live in.
Oh, Billy Beans, Billy Bald Beans in the in the ring with Boba Fett.
And then he actually was really good in the show. He played, for those who didn't see it, he plays basically an ex-stormtrooper who has PTSD from feeling terrible about like the casualties that his side caused. And I think the reason he isn't, so it's like, why would you cast a comedian for this role or whatever? And it's like, I think he embodies the guy with hangups and I think that's what makes a lot of his comedy really powerful. But he's got this temper on him that he's constantly trying to suppress. That is part of the character at all times. And part of that is like a machismo that he knows is disruptive to him, but that he also can't overcome. And so I think somebody suffering with trauma or with mental health issues who also can't present that way, who's refusing to allow themselves to present that way, is just always going to be really intriguing. And so there's this sequence where he basically can't hold back. Like it is crucial for the mission to not like reveal himself. Like all he has to do is stay incognito and they can get out of there peacefully. But so seeing even just like his body language, that kind of, he has this thing in his comedy too, where he's kind of bracing for impact, knowing the thing he's about to say is going to not go well. And so like I feel like that was really in the character, and I was I very much like the season finale. We'll talk about that in a second. Big spoilers, by the way, if you still don't know what happened.
I already spoiled it though. It's fine.
You said an actor's name.
Mark Hamill appears in it.
The Joker's Mark Hamill.
Yeah, he plays the Joker.
Yeah, the Joker now has crossed into DC is now owned by Disney. But I for my money, that Bill Burr episode was my favorite like Star Wars thing since Return of the Jedi. Probably.
Yeah, I like everything about it. Making you sort of root for the Empire, like when the TIE fighters swoop in, and
I thought that was amazing
in that action sequence. And I like that. The show is really smart because that action sequence kind of sets up that he knows how to fight with like a spear-like object. Even like little things like that, where it's like, I know that's very utilitarian, but it shows that he knows his way around a spear-like object for
in the poor show. There's still plenty of like contrived crap.
Yeah, I know it's contrived crap, but at least it's like, oh, he knows how to do this. Okay, we set it up.
Oh, it's not like that stuff is okay. That stuff is like I always there's like two scripts that I point to for that sort of thing that I think it's done really well. And that's Home Alone and Back to the Future, which is there's all of these things that have to make sense for the plot to be able to move forward, and things like the plane ticket in Home Alone got covered in milk, which is just like a pickup shot basically. Or, the power went out and, so they couldn't get their alarm clocks. So that's what made them run late. These compounding things, or the clock tower and Back to the Future. There's like, you don't want to set up the thing you're going to pay off 5 minutes before you pay it off. That's like, you want to plant it when it feels organic and when it almost feels incidental. Where it works less well in Mandalorian is like, the terminal needs to scan your face, like,
it scans your face to show that you're not a Republic person, right? It's like something contrived like that, because you would think in like a company they would scan your face if you're part of the company,
right?
But
like that was as a cybersecurity professional, I was like, that's pretty lousy authentication.
It's like it's authenticating that you're not part of like the enemy. Which is like
we have a database of people you can't be, but if you're anonymous, that's fine. Basically, like you can log into our website if you just like crap on the keyboard, like we don't know that password, so come on in.
Yeah, and then the fact that the terminal's like in the mess hall, like that doesn't make any sense. It's in the mess hall, like next to the officer.
If there's really like confidential like Empire data on that thing, it's not an ATM machine. Like,
do you can you imagine like, I don't know, going to the Emerson cafeteria and being like, I'm just gonna.
Let me download some FERPA right here in front of you all. As long as it scans my anonymous face. It's just a little bit stupid. I can deal with it because there's a good story.
Yes, exactly. You can forgive a lot if it hits the right emotional beats.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really strong. It remains so creative. It continues like this is a show that has Werner Herzog in it, and and wove Boba Fett in this really kind of creative way. And so I actually saw the they made a feature-length documentary about season 2. It's a single episode of the Disney Gallery show that profiles the whole thing. There's some I'll just throw some quick stuff at you. The guy who shot Clerks, Kevin Smith's cinematographer, Dave Klein, they went to film school together. He shot the Boba Fett episode, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, interesting.
You go from Clerks to that.
Robert Rodriguez directed that, right?
Rodriguez directed, and he put together an animatic, a live action storyboard of how he wanted to do the action sequence, and he did it with his son in his backyard with Star Wars costumes and with Star Wars action figures. And they showed it in the documentary, and it really is like a very good representation for how he ultimately shoots the sequence.
Wow. That's amazing.
Bib Fortuna, the tentacle guy who's Jabba's right hand man, he was played in the after credits season finale by the same guy who played him in the prequels in the Phantom Menace.
Oh, okay.
And it turns out not the original.
I mean, he did look the part, so they probably did some good casting in the Phantom Menace.
Apparently, he's like a sound guy / producer on at Lucasfilm. He's not an actor, and George put him in as Bib Fortuna in Phantom Menace, and so they got him back for this. And he's just loving it. And another cool piece of trivia: he has the staff, and they were like, "Yeah, this Bib Fortuna never had this staff in Return of the Jedi, but the action figure had this very staff, so they created that staff," which I thought was cool.
That was good.
Also, I don't know if you've ever seen like there's a graffiti artist, David Cho. He's been on like Joe Rogan a few times, and he's a very chaotic, mentally unhinged person, therefore somewhat fascinating to listen to. I didn't realize they brought him in to do a bunch of the graffiti art and on the exterior of like that fight stadium and in the season premiere. I just think it's really cool. It's almost like bringing in Banksy or something to it's not some art guy on at Disney or something. It's like David Cho. They got to do that. And finally, did you pick up on the fact that I think it's the Leguizamo character. He plays like a Cyclops in the season premiere. He's like the crime boss who gets strung up. He says McClunky.
Oh no!
They got him saying McClunky. For the uninitiated, in the special editions of A New Hope, they've redone that Greedo scene with Han shooting first and all that. Like every time it's re-released, there's some new bullshit surprise in that sequence. And the latest, which it was supposed to be released if they were to do a 3D release of A New Hope, which they never got around to because of the Disney acquisition. But when Disney released it on Disney Plus, suddenly now Greedo goes McClunky out of nowhere. And, which shocked audiences. And so Jon Favreau was like, we got to get him saying McClunky.
There's a way to do that that's bad. Like you remember in X-Men The Last Stand where
I'm the juggernaut bitch.
Yeah, where you're just like, this falls flat, but that hits me right.
They caught there's a moment of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau on the set that they kind of caught on camera of them talking about how, like, it was basically Jon Favreau trying to convince Dave Filoni that it was a good idea, and Filoni being like, "Come on." I'm sure.
I'm running a serious show. This is my Star Wars. I'm Star Wars now.
It reminded me of you and me sometimes, where like there's times where we're like on the same page about what to push, and then there's other times where it's like, I don't know. That feels maybe not like what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, they're obviously great collaborators because this has been amazing.
Yeah, I definitely, for anybody who has Disney Plus, I definitely recommend that. I recommend season 1 of the Mandalorian Gallery. That's really cool. But now I probably more recommend the second one because it's more condensed and you get to see, like, they just kind of fly through each episode and talk about each of the directors and their processes. And it's just really cool to see something that involves so many different creative voices. And I mean, it really feels like there's an element of there's like auteurs on each of those shows, but you kind of feel you do kind of feel like you're watching somebody's Star Wars movie every time you watch one of those episodes.
Yeah. And I wonder how it's going to be because they've announced so many Star Wars shows. I wonder if that's going to get diluted, There's something.
It's like what we were just talking about like as soon as you stop micromanaging the thing, like you necessarily have to let it go. And at some, I guess if the remedy for like, hey, if I'm going to delegate to somebody and if they don't meet my standards, I'm just going to fire them ultimately and get somebody else. It's like, well, that's kind of what Kathleen Kennedy did. She fired like 5 or 6 different people mid-project trying to achieve those same ends until she found somebody who nailed it. And with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, but it's like my instinct is when you have something that works, you stick with that.
Yeah.
And you don't milk it for everything it's worth. And then, because now the next, if you announce 10 new Star Wars projects, the next task is those guys have to find new versions of themselves. And I don't know if that exists. It didn't with the last 10 projects.
Yeah, it's I don't know, because I've been watching a little bit of Rebels, and I see a lot of the Mandalorian in Rebels. What I like about Mandalorian is I feel like they have to scale back a lot of stuff in Rebel. Like the Rebels has to be like what 15 or 16 episodes, and this only has to be like what 8 or something, right?
Right. And they don't have 200 million for every episode, whereas in animation you can you can animate whatever you'd like to some extent. So I like that the scope is necessarily small in Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's small, it's more focused, it's and they obviously get heavy hitters, they get better actors, because in Rebels they have like the same 10 voice actors that have been in cartoons since the 90s, but which they're great, but they are what they are.
Have you been enjoying it, like genuinely enjoying it, or are you finding it hard to connect with?
I like it. But I think it just. If we're going to talk about Wonder Woman, it kind of is the same thing, where it's just like I like parts of it. I just wish it was scaled back more. It's like one of those things.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should talk about the finale. So here it is. Yeah, Luke Skywalker shows up at the end of the show, and he's got a hood on the whole time, and he's buffer than we've ever seen Mark Hamill. He's got more of a square jaw because we can kind of see the jaw. But I thought a masterfully directed series. There's a lot going on, I think, that works. One being that, like, up to the they were patient. It's 2 seasons before they did a thing like this. And the fact that up until now, you've been kind of robbed of Luke, like as much as you could possibly have been robbed of Luke. I think it was completely unbelievable to any fan that they would actually do it.
Yeah.
It was like, there's no way.
Because people were saying that, like, when they said somebody was coming or something, they were thinking it was going to be Ezra Bridger or something from Rebels, which most normies don't know. And so to have it be Luke is very impactful. And, there is a criticism being like enough of the Skywalker shit, like
I disagree with that entirely.
Because especially with the, everything has to be around the Skywalker in the sequel trilogy too. It's like, this is the end of the Skywalker saga.
Well, I mean, if suddenly the main character of the show was a CG Frankenstein Luke Skywalker, then sure, I'd be like, I thought we were following a cool story about these other characters, but
I agree with it. So the criticism would be like, there's so many facets to the Star Wars universe, like why bring back the Skywalkers? But I think it still works because like you said, it's not like Luke is suddenly going to be the main character.
It's unbelievable at some point that you would not cross paths with Luke Skywalker. He's the most influential individual in the galaxy.
Yeah, he freaking destroyed a Death Star or 2, and
it's weird. Yeah, it's weird not to have the characters even know him by name. Like, and this Grogu thing seems like it's going to ultimately grow into something substantial for the Jedi Order.
You would think, yeah. So, but it worked on a lot of levels, and I love Pedro Pascal's performance.
That was great. So there you go. They never refocused the narrative on Luke. Luke was a plot device in Mando's story and in Grogu's story. So that's another, I think, significant thing. But as far as like knowing what they were doing, I think, a lot of people could fly an X-Wing, but when there's one X-Wing, it's like you instantly are like, who fly? Ahsoka is not in an X-Wing.
Yes.
watching it dock, watching it, the fact that they rolled it out with the security camera footage. Now, okay, that very probably is Luke, but maybe they're gonna take it from me because we don't know the color of the blade yet. And then seeing the color of the blade, and then that music that was not that was kind of almost melancholy. And the fact that directorially they were drawing parallels between him and Vader with the hallway scene, it was just really smart. And Grogu touching the security screen, being like, this is my savior, essentially. Like,
or like almost maybe in communion with him, being like, this is where we are.
Yeah, I mean that's really great stuff, and it made me remember. It was like there was a time when Star Wars was Luke Skywalker. And at some point they did a prequels thing, and then they did a spin-off thing, and before you know it, it's like, how is the son of Anakin significant in all this? He kind of gets lost in the show. It would be like if you had Indiana Jones, and then they were like, wouldn't it be cool to see like a prequel series about the father, the Sean Connery character, and then like they did like a spin-off about Marcus, and then like.
Yeah,
you were like,
and then a cartoon show about him.
Yeah,
and then
you were like, whatever happened to Indiana Jones? Like the whole thing. It's a little bit like that.
And I think Han Solo is always the more popular character, so he always gets brought up.
But Luke never, outside of the Legends books, I always felt like the most interesting part of Luke's story was never told. Like, you watched him go from a boy to a man in what we've talked about as one of the most like compelling character arcs in cinema. I mean, there's very few movies that like in movie series that in 3 films you go from this guy to this guy. And then to not, but he's still not he's barely a Jedi Knight, let alone a Jedi Master. And we know that he's probably going to grow into some kind of god. And we never really see that happen. We don't even know if it will happen. And then when we finally get some kind of follow-up with him, it's this kind of art film that no one's sure about.
Last Jedi, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, and where he's like basically like renounced everything, and he's a bitter old man. It's like,
they didn't. He wanted to make this other movie that had nothing to do with Star Wars. So it was definitely. I've heard that Jon Favreau has said that his favorite character is Luke, and he's always been fascinated with post Return of the Jedi Luke, and there's rumors about them continuing with him. Now, you and I speculated on this in a past episode where we were like, hey, if they ever do the Luke thing, shouldn't they just go ahead and cast a human being as Luke? And don't you feel like now would have been the time to, because the CG is very disruptive to being able to like buy into it.
Yeah, and I've watched the scene a couple times, and it bothers me less each time I've see it, but it is not great.
And you can see the whole thing before your eyes, where you're like, some dude on the internet this week is going to do a deep fake from the old movie, and it's going to look way better. And then sure enough, it's like, can they get over themselves and just get these internet guys to do these deep fakes?
I know it seems like they really wanted to do it in-house, and it's like a CG model render of the face, and
maybe they feel like they can't get a custom performance from the deep fake.
Yeah, or maybe they and I don't know what the rights are to like deep fake stuff, because I'm sure they have to source a bunch of images, and I never know what the rights are to those things.
Don't they own every single bit of it, including
you would think so. You would think so. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen them do, like, somebody did all of Moff Tarkin. Actually, I believe it was the same guy. All of Moff Tarkin from Rogue One, and then also Leia at the end. His deep fake, because Moff Tarkin was only, I think, marginally improved. Leia was like, I was completely bought into it. Like, if they had done that, I would have been like, oh my God, they brought the dead back to life. Like, truly, as opposed to this kind of freakish CG mirage of Carrie Fisher.
Yeah. And I don't, so that was a little bit of a turnoff, which, but at least thematically the story beats work, so I'm not gonna lose sleep over it.
No, I'm not either. But I have heard that they want to do more with Luke, and I don't know unless they're gonna do this really awesome looking deepfake that I was very impressed by. And I might watch an entire series if it looks that good. Outside of doing that, it's like you're not going to be able to animate the main character's face every episode.
So did Mark Hamill actually do new vocals for?
I have no idea if what they did with the voice, but
it sounded a little bit like Chef from South Park.
It did. It was like, "Hello there, children."
So I wasn't sure if because he is an old man now, so he has more of a gravelly voice.
So I think what happened was because I saw an interview with Favreau on Good Morning America, and they said that Mark Hamill was on set in costume. So I think what they did was they shot both. It was they shot the young guy for reference, and then they shot Mark for reference, and then they probably keyframe animated the face by reference or something. And then I think probably the vibe this is complete speculation, but the vibe I get for the voice is that really is Mark Hamill speaking, and that they tried with trickery to de-age the voice. I think that's what happened.
Because there is some uncanny valley with the voice.
Totally.
In my mind. So
and it was also mixed weird. The music was a little louder than it.
Yeah. So it didn't feel like it was in the same plane as Pedro Pascal.
It was like Bane.
Yeah, exactly. I remember seeing
his voice back there.
Yeah, I remember seeing that Batman film and being like, "Where is Bane? Where is he?"
Yeah, is he meant to be behind me? Is that not the real him?
He's surrounds you, and everyone else is not. It's
very
but
strange.
Nolan has always been weird with his mixing of voices.
Somebody ought to give him an ear test or something, because I at some point it's not art. Hey, really quick story. I don't know if I've ever told this anywhere before. Sophomore year of college, we had to do this thing called Film 2, where you shoot a movie on film, 16 millimeter. And I think it was a 4-hour screening of every single one of them across our grade. And, from all the different classes. This is at Emerson. And, it's 19 and 20-year-olds making movies on 16 mil. So they're real bad. And there's deadlines and it's homework. It's not passion projects. So they are bad. And they're all showing on DVD. So they got transferred to DVD. So they also don't look good. And there was one where the DVD just started skipping like a motherfucker. And it was completely unclear whether it was a DVD skipping or if it was some intentional thing. I mean, really, no one knew. And we all sat in the awkwardness of watching the DVD skip in a giant auditorium of people for probably 3 minutes of it skipping, and finally the director shouts from the balcony, "It's not art, the DVD is broken." So you need Nolan in an IMAX one day being like, "That's not art, the mix is wrong."
Oh, mercy me.
So I liked it. I've enjoyed my share of fans crying watching the Luke sequence on YouTube and stuff. I just think that's fun. It got that level of reaction from people, and it doesn't seem like anybody. Maybe a few people weren't into it, but it didn't seem like anybody was deeply offended by the choice to do it.
No. I think most people thought it was great, and it was
very fan unifying series so far.
Yeah, and I mean, the last episode's great. I always love the getting the gang together to do a heist, and that's like every episode of The Mandalorian. But
and by the time they get to the finale, it's all of the most powerful characters.
Yeah.
Did you know that the Dark Troopers were introduced in Dark Forces, the video game?
No.
That's what that's from.
Oh.
That's all. That was also in the documentary. I recommend the documentary.
I have to watch it. Like James Rolfe, I don't have time.
Yeah, that's on the topic of Cinemassacre Truth. Everybody's always making fun of James because in almost every State of the Channel type video that he makes, he talks about how little time he has, how he has a family, and blah blah blah. Which again makes me very self-conscious because we've spent our share of hours on this podcast being like we're so busy. But I will draw a distinction. He's normally talking about how busy he is and therefore why he has to be inactive or why he has to delegate stuff out. I think we're just saying we're doing it all, but we're dying.
Yeah. Well, because we have jobs outside of this.
Right.
And
That's what makes it
James
so
Rolfe
unsympathetic.
doesn't.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, if that was my full-time job, you wouldn't be able to stop orgasming with content. Like you'd be like, ow, stop it. I would just over pleasure, over please.
Oh, I'm right there with you, buddy.
I mean, can you imagine? I guess the only limiter would be how often you're able to shoot. But
Yeah.
if not only was it your full-time job, but also your collaborators' full-time jobs, my God, like you would just never stop.
Yeah, we wouldn't. And that's our natural state in life.
And like, I think Cinemassacre is a multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what you're talking about. So. It's one of the first, and they've been around for 15 years. But you gotta give them credit too. Like 15 years is a good run. Like if it's over, it's over. Like you gotta thank them for the good times, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything has to end. Although they'll just keep shambling that corpse around because
yes.
Why wouldn't you?
Totally.
You're James Rolfe. You could be like, I could put in no effort and still make like the similar amount of money. Maybe
well,
more.
What I hear is that company Screenwave takes 20% of everything. And so if you figure like I don't really have to split this with anybody but them, I literally will not have to do the work, but I will keep 80% of the profits. That's a pretty good deal. Unless you love making movies. If you hate making movies and just want to make money, then it's a great deal. But I was talking to Nina about it, and she was like, I think if you ever were in some, completely insane fiction, if you were presented with something like that, she's like, as a supporter, I would be like, but don't you want to make movies? Just before we leave Star Wars, I did watch the Star Wars Lego Holiday Special.
Oh, I saw that in the Disney Plus feed before I clicked the Mandalorian.
I thought the concept was super fun. Like there's this legacy of the Star Wars Holiday Special, and for Lego to do it again and this time sort of parody its own universe, I was like, that's a really cool idea. It's not good. Maybe you'll like, maybe somebody out there will like it, but it felt like a very shallow, pale imitation of the Robot Chicken Star Wars specials.
Oh, right.
And those were genuinely hilarious, and they were stop motion, so they were super well made, and they were really like they were deep cuts everywhere, and like this thing. They even kind of do like that character of the Emperor, where the Emperor is kind of like a businessman that doesn't have time for anything. Like, they were like basically ripping it off. And not to mention like the plot centers around the sequel characters. So like that alone is kind of a turn off. And
yeah.
But nobody came back from the sequel trilogy except for Daisy Ridley, who's like, I'll do it from the hypervisor, the hyperdrive. All right. Shall we look at our year?
Yeah. Let's look at our year. See what we did this year.
What did we do anyway? That's the question that we're about to answer. We produced 110 videos this year in 2020. Now that is up from last year where we did 107.
Wow.
But but those 2 years were basically the end of Tuesday content. And so in previous years we've done like 160.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But many, many hundreds of videos.
I mean,
ultimately,
there's a lot of channels that are more successful than ours that aren't as active.
Yeah, that is for sure. So a breakdown of what those videos were: 17 box max this year. If you consider that these are weekly releases and there's 52 weeks in a year, 17 box max, that's pretty good. That's like That means I think our Box Mac output was up this year. 17 EJ reviews.
Oh, not bad.
So you tie with Box Mac. That's 16 EJ cooks and 1 EJ Shrek review.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
If you're gonna review anything.
I agree. 15 Box Mac extras. So that includes commentaries, ads, little tidbits, that kind of thing. 14 Junts Carts. 12 Patreon podcast videos. So when we started doing the videos for this podcast, we ended up doing 12 of them out of the 26. This will be the 26th episode. 8 unboxings, Unboxing Max. 4 Till Death Do Us Part videos. So technically the movie itself formally released this year. There was the trailer, there was the film festival commercial, and there was the live stream Q&A after we did the live stream. I personally did 5 videos for my job. The COVID classroom safety one, the COVID, which I did an outtakes video for as well. The COVID testing one. I did an entire documentary about my former boss who retired, like a 45-minute documentary. And then one other video for a meeting. I did more family content this year. I did 5 kind of Frame family-based videos. 2 were for Red Cow. There was the Papa's Treehouse one, and there was the Halloween 5K and crafts one. I like both of those videos. The Papa's Treehouse one in particular played extremely well with my extended family, who like doesn't even see my dad all that much, but they were like, Jesus, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I also did my sister, and I think I meant to talk about this on this podcast many times, but my sister roped me in 3 different times this year because of COVID to make like very personalized birthday videos for 2 of her kids and for our mom, because she couldn't travel to see my mom. So she was like, well, can you, and she sent me like a bunch of raw footage and was like, edit it all together. And I was like, do you want, by the 3rd time, I was like, do you want me to show you how to edit a little bit? Like, and she was like, well, no, but she's like, I'm sure I could string them together, but you tell the story with the juxtaposition and the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I know, that was like 20 years of editing. And she was like, well, exactly. So you have to do it.
It's not the way of it.
2 bag trash videos. One was, of course, the Zoom webinar, which may be the best video of the year.
That is at least the funniest.
Yeah. And the Matt's very first original work, the bag trash.
That was
bag
cute.
itself.
I give him a good A for effort on that one. That was fun.
It was good enough that I would definitely let him try, like, make another one.
Yeah.
Like if he has another concept or another idea, like go make more stuff. It could be fun. And if it's really bad, we could always throw it on the Clips channel. 2 discount film school videos. So one is, of course, the Freddie Williams discount film school episode, which was another kind of documentary because I spliced in, supporting imagery for almost everything. And then much smaller than that was the time lapse of him drawing Lord Zed. And then there's a lot of one-offs. This year is like the king of the one-offs, the non-series based videos. So there's Pewter Smith.
Well, that's a king of one-offs.
Yes,
that's the cream of the crop.
It should birth more for sure. No Views, the Halloween No Views, the Halloween snack tasting video, the new Pirate Pizza review, the Junting Around Outdoors about my new swing set Treehouse, nice. A dessert Christmas party video that will be coming up tomorrow. I should be releasing something. It's just a few minutes. The Patreon podcast commercial, the GPD-XD review.
Oh, that again, another king of the one-offs.
Yes, yeah, that was significant. And then my Lost Rocky montage, my re-edit of the Rocky montage.
I enjoyed that a lot too. Just because bring it back to Cinemassacre.
Cinemassacre, see? Back when he used to do it for the love. He would, could he imagine 15 years ago outsourcing a Rocky montage to these slobs?
The screens of slobs.
The slobs. How uncommon. And then additionally, I compiled a few clips, like 3 Box Mac clips for the Clips channel, and I made 12 clips out of the Discount Film School episode with Freddie, which all went on. I put clips like that on Instagram as well. Now that like there's IG video, where you can go longer than a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And EJ, we have taste tested 40 new macaroni and cheeses.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
So I also compiled highlights. Like, you said that there's 17 box macs, Frankie, but what happened in these box macs, for instance? So I thought the pumpkin spice KD mac was a highlight, courtesy of Amy Sater Brown, who also gifted me that homemade mask that is my primary mask. I wear it everywhere.
Getting that KD pumpkin spice was it's like an artifact that we ate.
Yeah, I feel like she had said like, you guys had to do that. Like,
of course.
And I agree. It's like it elevates. It's like if you're really the mac and cheese show, are you gonna not figure out a way to get that mac? I think not. We made the Oots cheese ball mac.
Definitely a highlight. Super highlight.
And as much as I love the Christmas special, and I do love, yeah, come on, and I do love the Christmas special. You can't strike gold twice. That first one was really where it was at. But of course, it did return for the 10 cheese Mega Mac that John.
Oh yeah, it was a Mega Mac. It was a Franken Mac.
The Food Network parody for the Halloween show.
Oh, that was a lot of fun to film.
Yeah, I almost feel like there's something in me that's like there's still something there we didn't do. There's still like you can go further with it and more. Like there's, you wouldn't want to just do it again, but a little bit better. That wouldn't be enough. But I feel like there's another kind of format that we could do and tap into. But I was watching a Holiday Baking Championship with Nina recently, and I noticed that their cinematography is good. They have professional videographers, but it's I would say it's on par with what you're doing, and they're out of focus a lot, and they can't quite get the shot a lot of the time because it's a reality show, and that's the circumstances of shooting a lot of the time. But the way that they really mask it is kind of the way we mask it, which is they have a lot of professionally shot B-roll that they can go to, like close-ups of stuff that they will always kind of fancy up the whole thing. So like it's a break from the documentary style. And of course the interviews make it seem like everything is very kind of like well structured. So not only did I do the Freddie Williams thing, but he also gave me that Lord Zed drawing, which is like a total treasure for me. Not just because it's like a one-of-a-kind piece of art from a professional artist who's a fan of ours, but like it's a pretty great character. I don't know how many people would necessarily have asked for Lord Zed.
It's very Frankie to ask for that.
Yeah, it's a good pairing of his talent with like maybe a character that's a little obscure, but also one that I think like lends well to the style. Made 5 episodes of what episode of Box Mac is that? Which were all clips shows, but I thought they were fun because they're a quick index for like where is that memorable moment. 2 Thanksgiving shows. I don't think we've ever done 2 Thanksgiving shows, which was the Mayflower and the stuffing.
Yeah, right.
We tried that Pasta Express thing that looked like a giant glass of soda. That was this year.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, it was like one of the first episodes that aired this year.
Yeah, before the COVID, really.
We said goodbye to some businesses, as did the world. We said goodbye to the Taunton Galleria Mall, which, by the way, a lot like on every live stream we've done recently, there's always somebody who's like, I found you because I'm local and I was looking for stuff about the Taunton Galleria Mall, and now I watch all your stuff. We said goodbye to AC Moore, which I'm really sad about because I actually think AC Moore was they had some stuff that nobody else did. Like the year I needed cookie cutters that were Christmas tree shaped, they were the only ones who had them.
Yeah, I was like a little bit of a hipster and make my own T-shirts, and I would go to AC Moore and I would get supplies to make my own screen printed T-shirts. So I have a lot of good memories of AC Moore.
AC Moore's was they were very niche, and I will miss them. But we did buy a lot of stuff on clearance, and we're still like just little odds and ends for Gloria to play with, and we're actually still dipping into that stash. We got kicked out of Aldi for filming.
Oh, right.
I mean, we did Aldi in the first place, which I think it's kind of I mean, it was the episode was cut short, but I feel like the controversy generated from it. It was I wouldn't say a universally panned episode, but it certainly generated a lot of. There's a lot of Aldi defenders out there.
Yeah, I did like the text that went over the.
Oh yeah,
the kicking.
There's no videotaping in here. Videotaping.
Videotape.
Really?
You putting a tape in your iPhone.
Yeah, tape. Come now.
Putting the VHS in there.
We tried those candied fish from Japan.
Oh yeah,
remember that whole thing?
Right. Yeah, I was in the studio.
I mean, yes. I mean, there was that whole candy or that whole Japanese box, but yeah, it was one of the. I think that was the last shoot in the studio. We explored stores right as everything was closing for COVID, and that was before masks. And I think that was a very special time because that was when toilet paper was gone.
Yeah, people were fighting.
Yeah. There wasn't the politicization of the whole thing wasn't quite there yet.
It was just pure rage.
Like we weren't even clear.
Desperation.
I remember when we were shooting, we were like, we had the presence of mind enough to know that like, okay, this is probably the last time we're shooting in public for a little while, where if we try to do any more, first of all, places won't be open, but if we tried to do like a Walmart or something, we're going to get too many comments that this is irresponsible. And again, this is before masks. This is before there was a lot of like stay in your homes type stuff.
Yeah. Well, there were, I remember probably during the time that you filmed that, they were like, oh, masks don't work. Don't buy masks because they'll take away from the medical professionals. There was a lot of stuff like that.
As a matter of fact, I remember it was the conservatives that were all like paranoid and walking around with masks. And it was the liberals being like, don't you know that like masks don't even work?
Yeah. That was on my Facebook all the time. They're like, a point of information, masks don't work. Now it's flipped completely.
Funny how that works. But what did I want to say about that? Oh yeah, I remember we went to Friendly's after that shoot, and we did AC Moore in that same batch. We didn't present it as COVID related. We just presented it as, but we did 3 that night. We did BJ's Wholesale, we did Price Right. I think those are 2 really good shows, and then we did AC Moore's, and then we went out to Friendly's. Matt, myself, John, and Nina, and Friendly's is great. And while I'm on the topic, I should write this down too. With so many restaurants, especially like legacy restaurants closing, I really think that's a piece of content I'd like to make in the new year. Possibly, is we'll go stand outside a restaurant that's closed and we'll talk about our memories of it. Like that, John would be perfect for that.
Oh yeah.
You can find some old pictures of the Friendlies or because there's like a Friendlies that I went to a billion times. It's closed, and I would like to like talk about it.
Yeah. No Friendlies. Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember sitting there at the table. Of course, nobody had masks on, and there wasn't rigid cleaning schedules or anything. It was kind of it was March like 23rd or something. And I remember Nina was the one who was like, "We shouldn't be here." Like she was feeling, and I was like, "What?" Like I was like a little confused. I was like, "Well, I know that like people are going to start working from home and stuff, but isn't that more like a precaution? Like this place is open right now, sure, you know." But it was the last time we would go to a restaurant for many, many months.
Yeah.
So we did our first and probably hopefully only remote box mac. It was kind of an experiment. I thought it was sort of fun. It was me sitting out on my deck was less interesting than John trying to kind of carry on in the kitchen without me and shoot it. And he actually did a pretty good job. And there's a few things we would have done differently, but I think it basically worked. Like him switching to his phone to show me close-ups of things, and but it was hellish to edit because it meant a lot of different sources getting synced. We talked about those. Treehouse, GPDXD, beans for EJ's dad.
No, dude, yeah, beans for my dad. Can I just do like a quick rundown of like probably my
Please.
top 5 red cow content? I'm just gonna go red cow.
Oh, sure.
High level.
2020 or overall?
2020.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say Oots is probably my favorite top one. But Beans for My Dad is probably up there at number 2.
It took the nation by surprise.
Because it took me by surprise. And it was one of those things where it came out of such a pure place where my son was just born, my second child. I was so sleep deprived, and that saying "beans for my dad" kept coming up in my head because I was gonna make beans for my dad because it was his birthday, and I thought it was funny, and so I dropped everything to film it.
I love that.
Like I was working on other things. I was working on that Game Boy, the Shrek Game Boy thing. I was working on so many things, and I was just like, "Fuck it, beans for my dad will do it."
That's when you know that like you're making the right piece of content. When you're like, oh, I'll sacrifice any sleep I have to. Like I'm thrilled to make this thing I'm working on.
And so yeah, that would be number 2 is beans for my dad, and then probably Big Mac turkey would be my number 3 of that.
That was
good. And there's all of these have a high place in my heart. The order doesn't really matter. And then let's see. After that,
bag trash. Come on,
bag trash. Absolutely, hands down. No qualms about it. And then I think the Halloween special was really fun.
And Peter Smith should be in there somewhere, probably.
Yeah, but this is I limited it to 5, so I can't.
Maybe we should. Maybe we in past years we've done a top 10 and we've streamed them. Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, I think for New Year's maybe we'll do a stream.
That'd be fun. So there's some other stats. I mean, there's lots more to talk about. You obviously had a baby.
Oh yeah. Noah Edmond. We actually had the baptism today, so we had a baptism today, and he's a happy baby. He's so fat and happy. It's amazing. It's all these kids have such different personalities. It's scary.
Yeah, you want to believe that that personalities are generated over time, and they are, but you're born with quite a bit too.
Yeah, so he's like such a happy-go-lucky, like he's like very fat, very eaty. He like eats a lot. He puts things in his mouth. While my other son Gabriel never put things in his mouth. He like never sucked on anything. He barely eats now. But I think he functions by hopes and wishes. But this kid's totally different. He's such a different creature. It's so interesting to see the
Nina and I both were children who could play independently. Like we could, when I was a little kid, nothing made me happier than like, I'm going to get to have some time to myself to go into my bedroom, close the door, play with action figures and put something on TV. Like that was like my favorite thing in the world. And Nina was like that too. And Gloria is not. She doesn't allow us a moment of like we're all just kind of doing our own thing somewhere. Like especially as she gets older. Like it used to be like she could be quiet enough for me to edit for a little while. It's like just forget it. She fucking refuses.
Yeah. Well, Gabriel's a lot like that, and I was like that too, where I would play by myself in my room. I think Gabriel's a lot more like self-play. Yeah. What's kind of funny is like my wife will be like, shouldn't we let's play with him, let's talk at him, let's do this. I'm like, I don't think he likes that.
Well, the conventional wisdom is that that's what you do. You engage with your kid a lot. And I guess the good news is I don't have to work at it. She insists. I never have to like, oh man, like we spent a lot of time staring at the TV without talking at it. It's like, doesn't happen. Like if I'm like, can we have a movie night tonight, Gloria, where I'll stuff you full of popcorn and we'll stare at the TV.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I would love that. In fact, I tried it tonight and she fell asleep and we got to start the podcast earlier. We tried to watch Onward for the 8th time. But anyway, yeah, so you had a baby, which is kind of incredible.
It is, and that I was able to produce as much as I could with that baby. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that was really 17 video, fully produced videos for this channel, let alone what you've done professionally.
Yeah, and what I've helped with box Mac and everything.
Right, yeah. I mean, how many shows do you think you came out to? Probably like 6 or something.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, at least, yeah. On the merch side of things, I thought it would be interesting to break down like what is it we're selling these days. We talked about the Panasonic GH5 and the ad revenue and the 6K and moving out of the studio, which was this year. I missed that studio. I liked it, but we got the experience. We're done. We were in it. We were in studios for 2 years. It was super fun. It was someday
I liked it.
I hope to have a home where we can have something similar. And by the way, that's while we're dicking on James Rolfe, his shooting spaces are in his own home. So even less excuse. We sold 51 Blu-ray units, which I think is kind of a lot. I mean, when you consider that every one of them is me going out and like mailing it like at the post office.
Yeah, that's actually pretty impressive.
15 digital downloads, the $2.99. Those are mostly Till Death Do Us Part. 35 t-shirts, 4 magnets, 10 masks. Yes, 10 masks.
Oh.
With Red Cow designs, and 16 stickers. So people buy these stickers for some reason. Obviously, we launched this podcast, did 26 episodes. It's one of my favorite projects that we do. It's we'll continue to do it strong into the new year, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. We're gonna keep going.
Yes,
I've decided.
It's been
just now.
Well, it all started with you being like, we should really do something that's completely unique for the Patreon podcast. And you were like, let's just do it on the phone. And I think at the time you were thinking like maybe it'll be 20 minutes tops, like just to keep the investment level low, because we already are making plenty of content. And then like everything.
Yeah, feature creep. We got better microphones. We got the video. We got everything.
Yeah, and I don't think they ever were shorter than an hour, because there's a lot to talk. I mean, especially for every 2 weeks, there's always a lot of pent up conversation topics. I released the Box Max Volume 6 Blu-ray.
All right, that was this year.
That was this year, and that was hellish. I continuously because I released all of Junt's Nest on that, and so it's a really heavy disc. It's literally heavy. There's so much content on it. We officially released Till Death Do Us Part, like I said, and we showed virtually at the Massachusetts Independent Film Festival, which was a joke.
Yeah, it was a joke.
But it was cool to get in the film festival.
Yeah, my parents watched it, so
that's cool.
They were pretty proud of me, so I like that.
The patrons, they went at this time last year. We were bringing in $264 a month, and now we're up at $330. So it's a pretty, and again, I would attribute most of that to the podcast, which is really great. And we grew our subscribers on YouTube from 11,500 to 14,100. So we've grown 2,600 subs.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I mean, what do you want?
I only want what I have.
So then we move into the personal and the family stuff for me. Gloria's potty trained. That's huge for me. We bought her crazy playground. That saved us in the spring and summer.
Right.
And I'm working from home, which is continuously, like I'm horrified that will change.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about that with the next year, and if I get a new job, it's like, well, what will I have? What will I have to do?
Yeah. What's required for money these days? Lost 85 pounds since June 13th.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You look fantastic.
Oh, thank you. You should see me nude. You should not see me. I made a joke the other day about how I haven't rebought my clothes really yet because there's no reason. I'm working from home. And so I wear these what have become gigantic basketball shorts when I go on the elliptical. And it's all I wear that and sandals on the because I don't want to like even get socks sweaty. There's no good reason. I'm working out too much. So I'm on sandals and I'm in giant basketball shorts. And I'm shirtless. And I always I still have a gut, and I always catch myself in the mirror when I'm walking through and I look Especially if I have a towel on my head, I look like the Rancor trainer from Return of the Jedi.
He's gonna like start weeping.
Yeah. That poor Rancor. There's like two moments in Return of the Jedi like that. There's that one, and there's like when the Ewoks like are mourning the death of like another Ewok. It's two very abrupt, very human.
Yeah,
moments.
or like the little teddy bear turns to the other one, starts shaking them. Oh!
Yeah, he goes, oh. He does like a little bit of a Krusty the Clown. Oh, I Kavelt, another Ewok.
It's a pretty good Krusty.
Yeah, so I work out a minimum of 2 hours a day, a maximum of 3, and I was able to run 4 miles at a 9:44 pace. My PR for a mile is 9:02, and I recently did 6.25 miles at like an 11:20 pace. So I've been able to run 6 miles without stopping, which is pretty cool. I got pneumonia in April. It's not an accomplishment, but it happened this year. I got pneumonia from what I believe was COVID back in January from the indoor water park.
They said that COVID might have been here in like November, so
I mean,
it's possible.
It was certainly a unique series of illnesses that match COVID very well and have like a very obvious origin point for where like it could have, so it's plausible. I visited Salem in September, and that's where we bought Gary Castle. And I got to talk to the owner of Game Zone, who was featured heavily. He was like basically the star of that documentary, Not for Resale. That was super fun, and he got to sign a Blu-ray. That was just a really cool little experience. I bought Nina an iPad Pro, and we bought the Zoom H2, both on EJ's recommendation. So EJ's, and now the new camera.
Yeah, and I got myself an iPad Pro, and it's I've edited a lot of shows with it. I've edited the Shrek GBA show, the Beans for My Dad, famous Beans for My Dad was edited on that, and it's fully capable. I love editing on it.
You ever going to review that thing? Do you have any inkling?
I'm not going to do that. No, there's no passion. I use it as a tool. I just don't have ideas, but the camera, I've already started writing it. So that's what happens. If I'm using something, I start writing something in my head, it's going to become a video.
Well, you did a making of EJ Game of Thrones many years ago, and I just really enjoyed that video. So I like production videos. I think
that might be something to revisit, is like, oh, how do I make an EJ Cooks, or how do I make this and that. So
I've always turned that over in my head too, of like, would anybody be interested in a more, I've streamed editing and stuff, but would they be interested in maybe like a 10-minute from conception to completion? This is like what a box Mac looks like or something.
Maybe. I mean,
or maybe it's already too obvious. Like it's very clear, like you guys show up with this equipment, but maybe that's the thing.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Maybe not. And maybe some people are interested in like, oh, it's that camera and here's the typical setup. I don't know. As you can see, I have 2 arcades I bought this year. These are my prides and joys.
Oh yeah. I like the new illumination on the top.
Yeah. So I bought the fucking $80 light up marquees because I just felt that, and it's actually great because when there's no light in here, it's everything is just the glow of the arcades. So between modding this one to play all games and have these light up controls and this stuff, and I don't know if you can see the acrylic toppers, but there's this huge community on Etsy that makes this kind of cool stuff like this. They're pretty, like, they feel like real ass cabinets. And I don't know if I told you this, I brought the modded one to John's party. It was just me, Matt, John, and Nina. And we played arcade games at John's house all night. It was fucking awesome.
That is awesome.
We had a blast. I only wish it had lasted another 17 hours. And then we rented an AMC movie theater for $99 and watched The Grinch with Glow and John and Matt. That's going to actually, between the party and that's going to be a little video.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because there really was no dessert contest this year. It was more like we went over John's, played video games, and he made this apple cake that was actually freaking delicious. So is that the Jim Carrey Grinch, or is that the? No, it's the 2018 one. It was the Benedict Cumberbatch one.
Oh, okay.
Directed by Scott Mosier.
I've never seen that one. I actually did just recently watch the original Grinch with Gabriel, and
It's
it was
awesome.
very that's just perfect.
Yeah.
There's no fluff.
It's Chuck
No
Jones.
fluff. It's just the story.
It's Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, the you know, just it's just perfect. It's a perfect little. It doesn't waste any time.
We've been reading the original book tour, and it's with all the original illustrations and everything. And I heard some trivia recently that he wasn't green in the book. He wasn't any color in the book. And Chuck Jones called Dr. Seuss and was like, "What color is the Grinch?" And he said, "I hadn't really thought about it that much." And they talked for a little while, and they both decided on green because they were like, "Well, it'll look cool with the Santa Claus hat." It's just kind of crazy looking, like a furry animal that is green. It's just that's not a natural color for animal fur. And it also has kind of the lime green. It has kind of a used car salesman element to it.
Yeah, I was just thinking like envy, green with envy. That's how.
Yeah, it just seems it's one of those decisions that's like you can't imagine anything else.
Yeah. On that topic of Grinch, I see a lot of people. Weirdly enough, there was a lot of people in my Facebook feed dressed as the Grinch this year, and it's always the Jim Carrey like gross, scary Grinch.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that thing's hideous.
Is that the one that's going to endure? What's going on here?
I'll tell you, the Benedict Cumberbatch one ain't bad. It's not the original, not by a long shot. I mean, the thing is, too, is you have to realize, like, even the original, even the Chuck Jones one, that's like 25 minutes, and that's stretched out from what is otherwise a pretty small book. So, like, it already was stretched out, and now you're like, so as soon as you're adapting it into a feature, it's like
you have to add shit.
Yeah, you know what you're going to do. There's two things you're going to do, and both adaptations do it. Cindy Lou Who is going to be a way bigger character, and he needs a tragic backstory because you can't have a super unlikable protagonist.
Yeah.
Is the two things you're going to do.
Yeah, because there are only three characters like in the story. It's like Max, the Grinch, and Cindy Lou.
And by the way, Max is basically not in the book. He pokes his head up in the page a few times. I don't remember if they even mention him by name. So yeah, there's just not a lot happening there. I do think, like, as far as the morality tale of the thing goes, it's a pretty good one. It's the idea that especially how they present it in the original, where the Who's they don't skip a beat. Like they don't even kind of notice anything is gone. I think that's what makes it the most powerful.
Yeah, that's what makes the original. That's why I never really liked the Jim Carrey one. It's like they had to be like coached up to being like, oh, I guess it's fine.
That doesn't work. Yeah, that does not work.
It doesn't work, especially with how grimy and gross that one is.
Oh, it's so bad. It's Ron Howard too. But yeah,
I mean, good on Ron Howard because it obviously endorsed because everyone's freaking dressed up like him.
Well, that, or maybe it's like that's just the only reference point for a live action costume.
True. Because then it would just be like a stuffed animal, basically.
Right. Exactly.
If it's not like some horrifying.
I like how the animated one has like a hell of a fupa. Like this giant gas bubble. And I think the Jim Carrey one, they retain the gas bubble. Well, on the topic of Jim Carrey being in movies, I have my list of films I saw this year. I'd like to just run through them on you real quick. I saw 4 movies in theaters this year, EJ, which is
that's a lot.
Which is down from 30 plus normally. Sonic the Hedgehog. So there's your Jim Carrey. Birds of Prey.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I did end up finishing that, and
yikes.
No.
Emma, the Jane Austen film, and then
yeah.
And then of course the Grinch 2018. And I actually Sonic and Emma, I don't think Birds of Prey maybe, but definitely Sonic and Emma. You'll remember they were the first round of movies where like the theaters closed while they were playing, and the studios decided like, well, let's just put them out on VOD now. Then
right.
Yeah, so probably to recoup like how their theatrical lives were were run short a little bit, but also remember like back in the early moments of this whole thing, there was a lot of like charity. There's a lot of like, here's a free year of Disney Plus and like that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And here's you can buy Trolls World Tour. Fine, sure.
Yeah, just have it. Right. So then I saw the following newish releases: Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Midsummer, Trolls World Tour, which I've now seen 1 billion times. The Addams Family 2019, which I don't hate, by the way. I think it's a good introduction for kids. Dr. Sleep, we've talked about Dr. Sleep.
Yep.
Batman: A Death in the... I'm sure we've talked about basically all of these. Batman: A Death in the Family. Magnum Opus, The Making of Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Borat subsequent movie film. I don't think I did talk about that on this.
Maybe slightly.
Maybe a little.
I will, yeah.
Not for Resale, the video game documentary that I enjoyed. Mortal Kombat Legends: Scorpion's Revenge. QT8, the first 8, the Quentin Tarantino documentary. Playmobil the movie, which is a fucking we've seen it 1 million times, and I swear we're the only ones. But Gloria loves that thing. We know it well. It is a big part of the Frayne family, that Playmobil movie.
That's amazing, the things they glom onto.
Yeah, she saw it once. I think she saw it on like video on demand at her grandmother's house, and she came home blabbing about Charlie and Marla and Charlie. I was like, what is she talking about? We had to watch this movie that's just like, it's trying to be the Lego movie, but it stars that same actress that's in New Mutants and Emma and Queen's Gambit.
Oh, yeah.
Anya something or other. I like her. She's interesting. And then Console Wars. I saw or A Marriage Story too. I saw Marriage Story.
Yeah.
Which I did not like. I sort of liked it. I don't know. I also watched these old movies for the first time. Over the Top, The Stuff, WNUF Halloween Special, which is lovely, by the way. I highly recommend it. Unfriended, which is trashy, but really not that bad at the end of the day. It's a Zoom. It was the reason I watched it was because I thought we were going to make a Zoom-based Halloween special, which I'm glad we didn't.
Right.
Unfriended Dark Web. Sing. It's for Gloria. Terrifier,
I've
which
seen
is
most of that.
Terrifier, which is this horrible slasher film that was recommended to me. And The Resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts, which is addiction weight loss thing.
I've at least listened to him on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, that's kind of what got me interested, because DDP kind of saved his life. And I was in the early moments of trying to lose this weight. I needed some success stories to listen to, so I got really into that stuff. For TV and specials, I watched Better Call Saul season 5, Mandalorian season 2, Disney Gallery The Mandalorian, Animaniacs 2020, Watchmen 2019. These are all the greatest hits from the podcast. South Park The Pandemic Special. Sassy Justice, Kenny vs. Benny Pandemic Special. I watched the most popular Sebastian Maniscalco specials. Fuller House season 5, which I'm sure I did not recap on the podcast. Afterlife season 2, which is the Ricky Gervais show on Netflix. And Dark Side of the Ring, Chris Benoit. So the whole thing about Benoiting your whole family. That is a tough documentary, man.
And that's a dark joke in the Red Cow Slack.
yeah. Like when something has you so stressed that you end up Benoiting your whole family. It's just one of those kinds of jokes that you got to get on board with or not.
Yeah, it's
friendship defining type humor or destroying.
I don't have a similar list because I didn't make one. So,
well, I also played a lot of video games. For new Nintendo, I did Super Mario 3D All Stars, mostly Galaxy, Super Mario Brothers 35, Super Mario Brothers on the Game & Watch, Ring Fit Adventure, Angry Video Game Nerd 1 and 2 Deluxe. They re-released it for Switch. It's actually a pretty fun game when it's not too hard. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which Gloria and I have been playing a lot on Switch, and Gato Roboto, which is that Game Boy inspired looking thing.
Oh yeah, it's got the little key cat.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
It's pretty cute. It's not too much to it, but
with the GPD XD and the new arcade, lots of exploring both old and new games, like a lot of shit that I had never come across before. So some highlights from that, and I'll just run through them. Super Mario Brothers 3 Mix, which is my favorite NES ROM hack ever,
Oh, right.
where they kind of they take all of the elements from all the Mario games and put it into a Mario 3 game. Dolphin Blue, which is a Contra style shooter with anime characters where you ride on dolphins that Gloria and I really enjoy playing. Demon Front, which is a MAME. By the way, that Dolphin Blue thing, it came out for an arcade system called Atom is Wave, which I've never heard of before that. Demon Front, which is basically a Metal Slug ripoff that we really enjoy. Metal Slug, of course. There's a Fix It Felix Jr. Genesis ROM hack on these arcades that she loves. Simpsons Arcade, we played lots of. TMNT and Turtles in Time, of course. Burger Time, the Mortal Kombats. I don't like a lot of shmups, shoot 'em ups. Where you're just dodging dots the whole time, basically.
Yeah.
But there's one for SNES I had never played before called Space Megaforce. That's a pretty good one. I recommend it. A lot of power ups, a lot of variety in the levels. And not debilitatingly difficult.
Yes.
Qbert, Miss Pac-Man. She loves Miss Pac-Man. New Super Mario Land, which is an SNES ROM hack where they remade Super Mario Land for the Game Boy in the new Super Mario Brothers graphical style and released it as a ROM for the SNES.
That's pretty complicated, but that sounds delightful.
Yeah, it plays great actually. Donkey Kong Country, the X-Men arcade, the 4-player version. As opposed to the 6-player version. Diddy Kong Racing for N64, Contra Hardcore for Sega Genesis. Man, if you are wondering if the Sega Genesis ever had good graphics, that Contra Hardcore game by Konami is crazy.
Well, I think a lot of the Konami games on Genesis were great because I have the Castlevania, like Blood something, Blood. Castlevania Blood for Sega Genesis was really good.
They did some Tiny Toons games that look pretty good, and
yeah. I mean, Konami was always in that era, along with Capcom, they were always pushing the envelope.
Speaking of Tiny Toons, we discovered Acme All Stars, and there's like a bowling game, and Gloria just can't get enough of that. Rogue Squad. I played a lot of Rogue Squadron for N64 on the GPDXD, and actually was just loving it.
Darkwing. Aren't they gonna make a Rogue Squadron TV show?
Movie is what I heard. And it's
movie.
It's Patty Jenkins. It's the director of Wonder Woman. Which
that actually makes me a lot less.
I know. As of this last movie, time permitting, we should definitely talk about it. I got things to say. Rocket. You ever play Rocket Knight Adventures for Sega Genesis?
Rocket Knight Adventures. Is that like with the kind of like a armadillo you got looking guy?
Yeah, I think he's a possum, and he's like a knight, and he's got like a rocket pack.
Yeah.
It's Konami, by the way, and it plays great. It's an amazing platformer for the Sega Genesis that I think is only just now kind of getting discovered. Power Rangers the movie for Sega Genesis. I think it's the best Power Rangers game. It's a Streets of Rage style beat 'em up, but it kind of honors the iconography of the show, and it's pretty good. And then finally, Strider 2 for PlayStation. A lot of people know Strider from arcade and from Genesis. But Strider 2 for PlayStation was that sweet spot where it's a 2D side scroller with 3D elements in the background and it kind of in the foreground. It's like, for me, it's like right where PlayStation really shines.
Yeah, that's what I always loved about PlayStation. It's like, because they tried to do the janky 3D stuff, and then when they just dialed up Super Nintendo, basically,
yes,
to like Symphony of the Night is the best example.
I was gonna say Symphony of the Night is perfect.
It's the perfect example of where you just take something like Metroid, and then you make the graphics just that much better and add in those 3D elements better, more frames of animation, and you're just like, okay, that's...
Yeah, if the N64 did that a little more often, it probably could have been a more successful system.
Yeah. I think they really... And you could tell during that time Nintendo wanted to really push the 3D because even Nintendo Power, they wouldn't do hand-drawn drawings in the sidelines, you know know how they would have all those the art from all the manuals and stuff and the concept art.
It always had to be CG models and stuff.
Yeah, they changed it to CG models, and I remember even seeing, like, after maybe a year of N64, people were like, "Do we do hand drawn stuff anymore? Can we see more of that?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, we got away from that for a while." And it's like, but that was the good stuff. Like that's what I would like. That, again, that would lit me up. And the CG stuff always looked janky.
Yeah, totally. The hand drawn illustrated stuff was like good imagination fuel for for video games. Yeah,
because
well, that's why.
I kept all of those like Super Nintendo instruction manuals. I'd trace all those things. Oh, like that was the good. Yeah, and then because the problem was the CG wasn't that great at that time, so it always looked off, and it always looked, I don't know, too shiny and lumpy.
I saw a lot on eBay recently. It was like $300 in good condition, all of the golden era of Nintendo Power, and I was like, that's almost worth it, man, for $300.
Yeah. Just I'd probably just, if I had disposable income, I'd do it.
Well, that's my list of our that's our yearly roundup right there.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about Wonder Woman for a second?
Yeah.
I didn't finish it. So
where did you get up to? Spoilers, by the way. Spoilers
for Wonder Woman. I don't know. I don't even remember. It's just like the beginning is so rough. Like if we want to just cover the beginning, it's like
there's a pretty decent opening action sequence. I didn't really mind that.
But yeah, where she's like doing the training session there.
Yeah,
or
it's like Olympic Games
race.
for the
Diana, little Diana.
And I think it does a decent job setting up its theme.
Yeah, the theme, and then I don't know. I don't like Kristen Wiig anymore.
She needs to stay away from franchises, first of all, and second of all, yeah, she's kind of like, like Michael Cera and Woody Allen. Like everybody has their comic persona, and her comic persona is this talking under her breath, being awkward thing. And I think sometimes it really works, and other times it feels canned. And it felt kind of canned in this.
It felt canned. And I wasn't not enjoying it. It felt unfocused. I love Pedro Pascal's Latin Donald Trump guy.
But also, doesn't it feel very like really you're going to do like a Donald Trump allegory as your, like, doesn't it feel
but it wasn't like, but the thing is that it wasn't strictly Donald Trump.
Isn't that how everybody's going to interpret it?
Yeah, but I mean, it's because of the suit and the 80s, and
yeah,
that's how I mean, it obviously is
floppy hair.
It's obviously inspired by it, but it didn't feel exactly like Donald Trump, obviously, because Pedro Pascal's not Donald Trump.
Yeah, right.
But I could see the groundwork was Donald Trump, but but even like because they brought his son in randomly, right? Where it's just like, oh, here's his emotional beat, and then
yeah, that child actor too is like. Was he just the son of like somebody on set or something? Like he didn't seem like
he almost like showed up out of nowhere and was just like, this is my emotional anchor. Yeah. Now let's go on to the rest of the movie.
In fact, I don't know if he got there, but at the end of the movie, when he kind of repents, he is reconnected with his son, and he's like a sobbing mess. Like he's really like Pedro Pascal is really performing, and the kid gives him nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I get it, child actors and stuff, but like it's you can't help but notice like one guy's trying really hard and one guy is just dead in the face.
Yeah, I did stop. I got like probably an hour and a half in, and I was just like, you didn't get to the point fast enough.
Yeah, I didn't think the point was all that hard to get to, and it took a really long time.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it's just like it just needed some editing. It just needed something. It's especially some of like a lot of the scenes in the beginning where there's like, oh, look at there's this artifact. Okay, let's put it back in the box. Okay, let's take it back out of the box. Let's it's just there was just so many like weird procedural things that they did that didn't
Right. There's a lot
they
of like
could have
just kind of like,
streamlined it.
there's a lot of like empty gabbing. You could very easily rewrite and restructure that movie to condense the hell out of it, and it would lose nothing. It would gain everything. Now, I don't know that a monkey's paw morality tale is enough to kind of justify the existence of a sequel. I feel like it doesn't push the character far enough. It doesn't kind of take her to the next place enough. I think it does. I think a morality tale like that, where she kind of has to like shepherd the world to, or like remind everybody that the truth is important, and and gluttony is bad and stuff like that, does feel like it fits Wonder Woman. Actually,
Yeah.
that feels, I don't know. Wonder Woman is kind of maternal, obviously, in that way, and I think Superman is all about like, if you ever feel alone, this guy is there somewhere to support you and to save you. And then Batman is like, there's really nothing healthy about what's going on there at all. Like that's all about vengeance and grief and a guy living in perpetual hell.
Well, the beginning actually made me helpful because that I got onto that too, because when at the end it's like you can't take shortcuts, you have to do the work, you have to be truthful. I think that's an awesome message for nowadays. And
Totally.
And then when like I don't know the plot just happens, and it doesn't really have anything to do with that at first. It's pretty.
So I guess I'm asking the question of like, so that's a good superhero movie. That's a good superhero story. It's one of the reasons we follow these heroes. It fits the Wonder Woman character well. I think Gal is still a really good Wonder Woman. I mean, she embodies the thing we're looking for in this character for sure. So there's all these things that work, and then you have this loosey-goosey, shitty filmmaking going on. And so the question is, if you could do this movie better, how good could it be? On what's there. Like, to me,
one, I don't think it needed to be in the 80s, or like the 80s aesthetic wasn't utilized well.
Was that just to give her cool outfits and stuff? Like, it feels like it's just about fashion.
Yeah, and like they could use it in the advertisement, like because when I think of like Stranger Things, obviously that show kind of overdid the 80s, especially in the later seasons. But like the first season, it was like pitch perfect, like where you're like, it even used, there was a reason for it to be in the 80s because of, there's communication limitations in the 80s. But this is just, it didn't feel like it fit at all.
I guess it's just because like, otherwise you're making a modern, like she, the last time we saw her in a standalone movie, it was a period film, and it feels like, well, it ought to be a period film again. Like it just feels like it's like part of the idea there. I don't know.
Yeah, but it didn't do enough with that, because even though it's like, oh, a Donald Trump inspired villain, it's not Donald Trump. It's not.
Well, would we agree? Would we agree that the first one is a pretty good World War II movie?
World War One, but
World War One, yes.
What made that great was it was World War One, because there's so many superhero movies, or all these famous movies that are from World War II, and the fact that that scene where she goes into no man's land,
it's incredible.
That's the movie.
Yeah.
That's the movie.
That's why people will probably rewatch that movie years to come.
And that's the movie. I think it did it very well. I think they did the period well. I think it did the relationship with Chris Pine really well. Yeah. The ending was kind of cookie cutter, but that's about it.
I feel kind of spoiled by modern sequels where especially like in the Marvel universe, where they have so much momentum. They're always bringing their stories they propel their stories into the future, with the exception, honestly, of like some of the ones where it's like, oh, now we're gonna, like Captain Marvel was like a prequel to a lot of the stuff we saw. I think that's a mistake when they do that. Like, I think like everything should be propelling forward.
Mm.
You shouldn't be like retconning stuff in that franchise. I think just like keep going. But you take, for instance, Guardians 2, which not everybody loves, but I think it's like one of the best superhero movies of all time, actually. And like Rocket's in a very different place than he was in the first movie. And so is Chris Pratt. Everybody is in a very different place than they were in the first movie. And then they're in a very different place at the end of that movie too. So like you really feel like every time there's a sequel that pops up, there's a good reason for there to be, it's like truly the next episode.
And again, they started pretty strong with that, with Wonder Woman, where you see the relics of like, her relationship with Chris Pine, and you're like, oh, and then this is where she is now, and she still like clings on to that. But I still feel like it was that, like the transition to then you get into the plot of the thing. It just doesn't really work for me.
Oh, and you didn't see it, but there's a mid-credit sequence where Linda Carter shows up, and it's the dumbest shit you've ever seen in your life. Like, I mean, I have no idea who did this, but who thought this would be a good idea. But she's in like public. It's her back. You don't see her, and she's walking around in a densely populated city, and then like this big pillar falls. There almost is a disaster, and she catches it. And somebody's like, thank you, you saved my life. And she turns around and she's like, I'm Asteria, or some character from the comic. And she's like, believe me, I've been doing this for a long time. And she like winks at the camera, and that's the scene. Like, really? Like, and then they're like, and Linda Carter as Asteria.
I don't feel like Patty Jenkins was reined in at all with this film.
Like nobody was working with her to make it better.
Yeah, because the first one was so much of a success that maybe, just it was able to be a 2-hour and 40-minute meandering.
Yeah, it's either that she wasn't reined in or the studio interfered too much. It's one of the two seems to have happened.
And it kind of baffles me because they had an extra year to like basically iron this out.
Do you think when they decided to go to streaming that they might have tried to get the runtime higher?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I feel like you could cut a solid hour off of this thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, it basically repeats info. That's how you know that things were fucked up. It's like it was. And can I just say too, did you see some of these sequences where she was green screen flying and green screen jumping, and like it, and she almost looks bored, like green screen jumping? I was like, this is pretty terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. So I still have to finish the film, but I wasn't jazzed.
I didn't see anybody who was excited about it. There were a lot of people who I feel like they would pressure themselves to like it, and they didn't like it.
Because I mean, I legitimately liked the first one.
I basically do. I think that movie almost ruins itself with that whole third act. Like fighting a giant CG thing, and he really is the God of War. Even though like they had this cool thing that was like maybe there is no God of War. Maybe it's mankind itself or something.
Yeah, I understand that. It gets a little too generic, but there's a lot of great visuals and a lot of great concepts, and
it works pretty well.
It works pretty well. And Chris Pine is just so fucking hot. So you just like look into his beautiful eyes.
And her fish out of water thing works well, and everything on the island.
And they kind of bring back the fish out of water thing with Chris Pine in this one, where
they reverse roles,
which I don't think works as well, but.
But let me, as an advocate,
I can see why they did that.
As an advocate of HBO Max, do you think they're going to bring in subscribers with this thing?
Maybe. I don't know at first, because I think they're still riding on the goodwill of the first one, and people will see it. But I don't think HBO Max needs it. I don't think they do, because they have so much good content as it is,
Well, just if you're gonna take your $200 million movie or $300 million movie and finally just resign yourself to like, here it is. Like, I would still be looking for the highest return on investment there.
Here's the thing: is when the part I watched, it felt like a streaming movie, and that's
Totally.
not good.
I think Mandalorian is higher production value.
Yeah, like it felt like, because especially with like all the scenes like where they're in like the
Offices.
the offices and the gem museum. It's like
No, yeah, it's very much like the prequels or a show where there's a budget for the special effects and those scenes almost look directed by somebody else, but then like you have to fill out the 44-minute episodes, and those are mostly in like people talking in rooms. Like there's a lot of people talking in rooms in this thing.
Yeah, and it's fucking Wonder Woman. Come on.
And can I also say, like, I didn't love how gray the first one was in terms of the color correction. They clearly were trying to match the Snyder movies a little bit, although the islands look beautiful in the first one. But this thing, it looks like it looks like an infected foreskin, this thing. It's color corrected like yet again, like another, you can see everybody has high blood pressure as a like
they're trying to make everyone look like Trump.
God.
Trying to get dial up the color on his faces.
How hard is it to make your movie look like you shot it and it's real? Very, very frustrating.
So
I did my pop culture homework. How dare you not complete it?
Well, you know, it's just it got to like 11:30 last night, and I was like, I gotta get to bed because I have this baptism tomorrow morning.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about that. So we got on Reddit. There was a guy who made the Big Mac turkey.
Yes, that makes me exceedingly happy. It was one of those things where, you know, it shocked me that it was so good, but I didn't really think that anybody would actually do it. And I do kind of encourage people in the video to do it. That was my very genuine reaction to it.
Like, you got to taste this.
You got to do it. And he said it was great. And he said it was the best turkey he ever made. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm onto something. So.
It does look delicious. I got a picture from somebody yesterday being Christmas Day. A fan named Anthony Miller who met me at the flea market one time. He got his son a Junt's Cart shirt and a Rapid Mac, and they took a picture and sent it to me, which was
that's awesome.
Surreal for sure.
All that stuff is surreal. When somebody took their holiday turkey and like basically themed it around one of my shows. That's like a trip.
That's why I made that recipes video, because I was like, well, if anybody missed one of these or they want to need the push or need the inspiration to like, maybe you could make one of these dishes. Yeah. Like, I thought maybe that would be cool. On the topic of food, I'm now 3 days. I had John's party, Christmas Day, and today it was like a lot of leftovers and stuff. Oh, and Christmas Eve. So I'm like, I'm eating too much of these. Like it's starting to really upset me. I'm like, I gotta get back.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm drinking too much, but it is the holidays.
But I'm drinking too much.
And it's not going to happen going forward.
What was Gabe's big gift? What was it? What was the one that like defined the Christmas for him?
I mean, he had a lot of, we did like a lot of littler gifts, but the one he's like had spent the most time on is this one that's like a little city set with these little tiny like cars that go around a track, and you actually use like knobs and buttons to make the cars go around the track, and there's like a helicopter that zooms around.
Oh, right.
He's been on, it's like basically a video game without screens, so he just loves it. It's just, he plays with the knobs and makes the cars go around. And then he takes the cars and he like brings them into his bedroom and sleeps with them. So that was the biggest hit, I would say. But we got him like a trampoline because because it's winter and he's got so much energy. We're just like, you got to hop on something.
Gloria she saw a Minnie Mouse convertible, like one of those little battery powered cars in a Walmart one time. And so the mini car, as it was dubbed, became like the top of her Christmas list. So we knew that was like, that came in from Amazon, I don't know, a month ago. And it's been in the basement since then with like a big sheet over it since then. Um, and we got to take it out for its maiden voyage today because it wasn't raining. And that was pretty damn fun. We drove almost around the whole neighborhood, and then she was like, "I'm cold, I'm getting out," and I was like, "What the fuck am I gonna do with this car that's like half a mile away from the house?" And I actually picked it up and had to like walk it home. She also every time we engaged her about her Christmas list, she kept throwing in more non sequiturs into it. So she would be like, I need a mini car and a Bo Peep and a Jessie. Those are characters from Toy Story. I was like, okay, I'm following you. And we got her all that. And she's like, and a Jiminy Cricket. I'm like, wait, what? Like the character from Disney? Like we've not watched Pinocchio, you know, like she was a Jiminy Cricket. And I'm like, there's not like Jiminy Crickets in Target, you know?
No.
And then she also kept adding to the, I don't know if she heard this on TV or something, that she go, and the greatest gift of all to be with my family. So
that's very funny.
We did buy a Jiminy Cricket. The best we could find was there was a collectible figurine on Amazon for $30. She couldn't give a fuck about it when she saw it. And she started getting upset because on Christmas Eve, she started saying, and I want a Miss Miller. Miss Miller is the babysitter from the Chipmunk Adventure in the Chipmunks movie. And I was like, there's no toy of Miss Miller. and she saw so she saw Jiminy Cricket and she goes like, but where's Miss Miller? But what happened to Miss Miller? And I was like, come on, man, don't do this to me. Don't 3-year-old me.
Yeah. I like the little anecdote you told about her with her toys.
Which one was it?
The one where it's like, I'm glad when I grow up.
Oh yeah. She goes, I don't have to stop playing with my toys when I grow up because my daddy never stopped playing with his toys when he grew up.
Yeah, I told that story to my wife, and she's like, I'm not sure if that's like a burn.
I mean, it is, but she doesn't know it is.
Like, I'm not sure if that's a subtle burn.
I'm like, look, I'm just one of these guys who, look, I don't do like, I'm not on crack or something, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Action figures, big deal.
Come on.
There's a few other things. Like my sister got me this LL Bean sweatshirt, which is actually kind of nice, a little big,
looks comfy,
but kind of nice and comfy. I got Gloria got from her uncle Nina's brother a like one of those kind of fold up pianos, like
oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
Gabriel got a lap harp, which is a harp that you put on your lap. He loves that. He loves music and likes playing stuff.
Oh yeah,
he's interesting. So like he had a birthday and a Christmas in the same month, and we always ask him like what he wants, and he doesn't give a fuck. Like like he'll be like, "What do you want for your birthday?" He's like, "Nothing. I don't what." Like he doesn't want anything. So you have to make stuff up. So
I'm like that too. My dad was downright frustrated with me. He was like, "You're a hard guy to shop for," because he was like, "What about this athletic gear thing? And what about this athletic gear thing?" He just kept being like, I was like, "Don't you?" Gloria could tell you I play with toys. Like, go get me like a Sonic the Hedgehog thing or something. But ultimately, I did wear them down. Ultimately, they got me a $100 gift certificate to Dick's Sporting Goods, and that's the end of it.
So, yeah, I'm weirdly in that camp where like if I get a gift card, I'm like, sweet.
Yeah, I got I lowered the bar for next year. Now we all have to remember that this happened, and we'll do it. We'll do it right next year.
So, but he is hard to shop for. So you end up getting a bunch of stuff, that he doesn't care about, but hopefully something resonates. And then, but he also, this is another thing, is he doesn't like opening presents. So
it like stresses him out, like the birthday kind of stress.
Yeah, because none of his birthday presents he has opened. He has not opened any of them.
Oh wow!
And that was December 12th, and or December 10th, and he He doesn't want to open them. He just screams. He screams if we try to open them. He doesn't want to open them. And we asked him, like, why don't you want to open them? He's like, because then I'll find out what's inside. And it's like, he just doesn't, like, it stresses him out that it'll become real, like whatever.
I want to keep it in this state, this cryogenic.
Yeah. The Schrodinger's cat of presence is the best state. And, so yeah, there's stuff that he hasn't opened, and so for Christmas we learned our lesson. We just left it out under the tree, not unwrapped. And so he just has to deal with it.
It was very hard for her to. She was doing the typical kid thing of like she loved every present, and each of them engaged her on a level where she wanted to just like give her complete focus to that, and there's like another like 10 presents to open. And it was like, we're going to be here all day. But, that's the point. So you just don't care. It's like,
you lounge around, you open presents. But then so then we had presents that were wrapped for each other, like Anna and I. And we're like, oh, we're going to open our presents. He's like, no. And we're like, okay, Gabriel, if you don't want to open your presents, fine, but we're gonna open our present.
Totally, yeah, you gotta draw the line.
It's like you can't be like micromanaging our gift opening experience.
It's a very 3-year-old thing to do. She's like that with us. She hates when we talk to each other. She thinks that's the biggest bullshit of all.
Oh, he definitely today. Yeah, we were talking about like the plans for today, and he just goes, stop talking. just stop talking.
Stop it. You don't need to be doing this to me right now.
We're just like, mommy and daddy need to talk to each other. Like, no, stop talking.
Well, I think we got through it. I think that was a big list, and I hope people who have never listened to a show before actually if you did make it all the way through. Wow.
Yeah. Maybe you stopped with the Wonder Woman spoilers, but
or the Luke the Mark Hamill,
the Mark Hamill, the dramatic revelation that Mark Hamill was in Star Wars.
But yeah, maybe we'll do the stream on New Year's, and then we'll pretty soon. I want to record with you and John the state of the channel video, like maybe a 5 to 10 minute. Like, here's what we're gonna do moving forward. So we'll have to schedule another one of these, and then and my hope is a lot of exciting stuff next year.
Yeah. Well, Frankie's going to leave the channel and start streaming on Twitch permanently. Well, it's only proper after the slobs came in.
Yes. I will be announcing soon that we've hired a team of slobs.
A team of slobs who will help Junt to the finish line.
Who the fuck needs a team of slobs when we already have ourselves? That's really
I got a haircut.
And I've lost 85 pounds. So John has some work to do. Because otherwise he'll be the target of all the memes. before we launch our truth channel.
We launch it ourselves.
Yeah, we just egg it on.
We start the subreddit just to cause shit.
Well, I noticed that one of the slobs did post his Twitter profile picture is one of the crudely MS Paint kind of, insulting pictures of him.
Well,
so he did co-op that.
Yeah, that makes me like him a little better.
Yeah, you got to do it. They want to paint him as like, that he would never do such a thing. But I'm sure they're decent people. I think some of them just work for a company. That's just their jobs.
Yeah.
And now they have to be slobs.
They've been imbued with different importance with the Cinemassacre channel.
They all got to split that 20%, which must just go into the vapor. And it's probably their biggest client, honestly.
Yeah.
So that means James is making a pretty penny.
I'm sure. So anyway, that's the future of Red Cow Entertainment.
Yeah, in the future we'll talk a lot more about Cinemassacre Truth. we got our friend Zach Maxwell, who we're in a Slack channel with, to become as intrigued by this as we are, and so now like talking about the drama of Cinemassacre and the slobs has become like just too big of a part of our lives, frankly.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's for our new show on Drama Mondays.
I was
where we talk
I
about-
was reading that subreddit on Christmas Day when my family was around.
I was too. Sorry.
There was a good 2 hours where they decided to do a Zoom with my sister and her family on the big TV, and they didn't. I thought, to me, like Zoom is still kind of like a phone call. Like you structure it, and then you wrap it up and you say goodbye. They look at it as like, no, they're just invited into our house and we'll just have them on the Zoom the whole time. And by the way, they can't, of course they're just normies, so they can't run a mic from their iPad to like where they are, but they want you to see their whole family the whole time. So they all want to be in frame, but there's no mic. So everybody's shouting to a distant iPad. And it went on like this for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe longer. And at one point I was reading Cinemassacre Truth, just zonking out. And then I fell asleep in the middle of the room. While everybody was screaming and yelling and presents, I fell asleep in the middle of the room. I just lost consciousness. And Nina was there too. Like, she's not made to feel any more comfortable by me falling out of consciousness.
Well, that was a shocking thing last week when you streamed the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I felt I was going to join the stream. And I totally fell asleep in a chair. And I woke up at 10 o'clock after the stream was over. And I was just like, I was so alarmed because it was the first time I've ever fell asleep in a chair. And I think that's when I became a real dad.
Yeah, totally. I don't know. My nephews were on the Zoom, and so that makes me an uncle. And I think as like an uncle at Christmas, I feel entitled to just like pass out in front of everybody. All right. Well, I'll see you soon, EJ. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.